All right, this is an introduction to the SPARKVue sensor software. We'll use it to interact with sensors and also to do graphing using the programming blocks. But this tutorial is about using it with sensors. So we're going to build a new experiment. You may be given in the future something that's already been created, and you would open a saved experiment or something that you've done. But we'll start new here. And I'm going to select the layout. If you're just making a graph, the first one's good. If it's a graph of the data table, the second or third one. And then there might be other formats you want, and there are lots of different formats here. If you want two graphs side by side, this one right here would work. So I'm going to click on that one and point out to you here, we need to define what we want to display. This would be a graph. This is a digital display. This is the data table. This is like a dial, a readout, a bar or histogram. And then there's a text output that could come out here, which we would not be doing with a sensor. So typically it's a graph or a digital display or maybe a data table, the first three. So I'll make this one a graph and I'll make this one digital display. And so there we go. We need a sensor connected to SPARKVue. So most of our sensors now are wireless and they require a Bluetooth connection. So we go to the Bluetooth symbol. And if you have a sensor that's on, then it's waiting to be connected to a device. Click on it. This is a smart cart. And the number there you see is printed on the smart cart. So you can know it's yours for sure. Typically, it's the one at the top of the list because it's closest to your computer and has the strongest signal. And once it's connected, you see the battery's good in the smart cart, and I could get rid of it if I wanted to, but I am done now. So we're Bluetooth connected. So let's look on the graph here. First of all, let me define what I'm going to measure. The smart cart has lots of possibilities. There's position, velocity, acceleration, force, acceleration using an accelerometer inside, and then angular rotation measurements. We'll always be working with either a smart cart position sensor or the force sensor, maybe the acceleration sensor sometimes. So I'm going to go with position. And its default is to go into meters. If I decided I wanted centimeters, I could select centimeters from a list or other units, feet perhaps, but let's stick with meters. And I will make the digital readout the same thing, just to show you that. Point out to you on the graph here, you can click and drag to change the range of the y-axis and the range of the x-axis, and you can click and drag and move the axes around like that. So you have those controls. There's a graphing toolbar down here. If I collapse it, you can see time by default goes on the x-axis here. I would actually call this the x-axis, right? Along at the y variable equals 0, this line here is the x-axis, but the labels for it are shown down. So this is position in meters, and this would be time in seconds, and this will print out the position in meters. We're going to select a measurement, and we've done that already. So now I'll collect some data, actually. So I will hit start, and I'll move the smart cart, and I'm moving it back and forth, and you can see that the graph is showing the data. Now I've stopped, and I'm going to hit stop at this point. And you can see here what happened over the last 10 seconds. The cart was at rest, then I moved it forward, then moved it backwards, past where it was at position 0, and so forth. And this was giving the readout the whole time, and it stopped at the last reading. I could play with the axes if I wanted to, change that. And there's also controls here. Some of the basics are just I can move it in the frame like that. The little box here allows me to select a region, and then if I hit this, it will magnify it and show me just that region. And I could click on, I can do some statistics or some curve related things that we'll show at another time. And if I want to go back, I believe I can just click on the box and hit X, and then go back here, and there's lots of different ways to manipulate things. Um, the menu allows us to save, and we could save for the first time, save as, or save with the same name. We can open other files if we want, but basically that's what this menu is for. Another important feature is if we wanted to add to this, say I wanted another display, I'd go up to this plus sign here. It's a new page, and I would pick the layout for the new page. Let's say I want a graph and a data table, so graph and data table there, and I could fill in, let's go with velocity, and this would be time here in this axis, and I'll make this velocity. And it's showing me it actually had that information available, and from that last run I did, and it's putting it right here to look at. I can click on the tab and name this. I can rename it from the default untitled, and I'll call this velocity. And that makes me want to go back and name the first one. I'll name the first one position. So now I have two tabs, position and velocity. All right. And finally, right here in experiment tools, the wrench and the screwdriver, often you'll have multiple runs. Maybe you just want the last run. So if you click manage runs, you can delete the last run or delete all runs, or you could actually choose a run to delete. There's only one run here, so if I choose to delete it, everything will go away. If I do so, everything will be gone now. All right. But if you had multiple runs, then you could just get rid of the ones that you wanted and keep what you wanted. That's the introduction to SPARKVue. Those features will get you up and running, and you'll be a capable user of the platform and working with sensors, and then you can learn more from there.